the Beretta Model 418, 007's first gun. Let's check it out. When it comes to James Bond, the PPK comes to mind. It's in 380 ACP, it's a blowback action, and Ian Fleming had James Bond carry the PPK for most of the books, most of the movies. In fact, at a period of time, they switched to a 9mm pistol and then went right back to the PPK. I mean, it is well known for it. Also used by the German Army during World War II, and honestly, it was the gun that Hitler took his life with. But Ian Fleming's first 5 novels, James Bond carried the Beretta Model 418. 25 ACP, blowback action. I mean, it was pretty anemic. And it's a good thing that he moved up to the PPK. But today we're going to take a look at this little gem. I mean, Beretta has been in business for almost 500 years, and they have produced a lot of different type firearms. And the Model 418, which is also called the Panther, is just one of those really classic designs. Now, the Model 418 has become very collectible, and a lot of that has to do with being carried by James Bond in the early movies. And the prices can be very expensive. I was at a gun show recently, and a guy had one on a table. He didn't really know what he had, and I was pretty excited to pick this up for a good price. But guys, if you're looking for one, I'll just let you know now, they can get really pricey. And I want to thank my Patreon members for their support that allows me to buy little guns like this to bring to you guys. The Beretta Model 418. This is the most unknown of James Bond's handguns. This was actually carried by James Bond in the first 5 books of Ian Fleming's novels. Which was pretty fascinating. In fact, he did carry these in some of the early movies. It's in 25 ACP, it's tiny, it's a little pocket pistol, and so, you know, it was really unique. And we all know about the Walther PPK, and that's obviously what made this gun famous, was the James Bond series. It was in 32 ACP originally. I think they moved it up to 380. This is in 380. We just did a review on this, but this is what most people think of when they think of James Bond, even though he did carry a few other guns. So this is really one of those unique guns that had a big role with James Bond. Very few people really know about this handgun, and being from Beretta, I mean, you know, that's just kind of nice. It's good quality. Ian Fleming didn't know a lot about guns, obviously. In fact, one of his fans got in touch with him and said, this is a really poor choice for James Bond to carry because this is honestly a lady's gun. And mainly because it's just a pocket pistol. And the guy was right. And that's what led Ian Fleming to change to the Walther PPK. And while it was in 32, it was better than 25. Which is funny that a lot of people, especially in Europe, carried 25s for a long time for self-defense. Even here in the U.S. But because of a lot of the guns that have come in that are just very tiny or that have much better calibers, these have really just pretty much fallen out of favor altogether. Me personally, I enjoy shooting 25. It's just like shooting a 22, except it's more reliable because it's center fire. So, you know, that's one of the reasons why John Browning designed the 25 ACP in the first place. Now, this is a blowback action, again, 25 ACP. We're going to go ahead and drop the magazine. Has a hill type mag release. Nice serrations here on the mag base plate. And we pull it out. The original models were 7 rounds. Then they bumped it up to 8 rounds. Just a metal magazine. And then go ahead and open it up and the gun is empty. Now you'll notice here at the back we have just a little bit of protrusion from the firing pin. And this just lets you know that the striker is cocked. Doesn't mean that the gun is loaded or unloaded. And so once you pull the trigger, it just disappears. Have a grip safety right here, which you have to depress before the gun's fired. And then we have a frame safety. And then this just activates by just lifting it up next to the slide. But it also doubles as a slide hold open feature. So I can lock this into this little notch in the slide, and now I've got this gun open. But this does not have last round hold open. When the last round's fired, it'll close like any other. Then we just drop it down. Just make sure you put it into place. Nice little serrations. The styling here at the front, it kind of curves down like the Beretta 92 and that open slide design. Sights, very rudimentary sights. A small notch at the back, and here at the front, just a really small blade. But this is obviously meant to carry up close and personal, so you know it's not really designed for target. Here on the slide we have Beretta and caliber 6.35, which is 25 ACP, and so it just has the markings and it's made in Italy. Then here on the other side we have a serial number, which the serial numbers do match on this particular model. Serrations are decent. It's not a lot to bring this back, but you do have to get kind of over the magazine follower, and so, but very adequate, and they're kind of concaved in. Your extractor is right in the top of the slide. But one thing that I thought was very unique is this kind of a bezel all the way around the grip, and it's just metal. It's just surrounds the grip on three sides. So when you release the grip, you can just pull it straight down. But one of the cool things about this is it helps protect your grip from getting chipped and cracked, which you see so much of with some of these older pistols. And so I have never seen that. I thought that was really cool. Now these were very popular with Italian brass during World War II. I mean, a lot of the officers really loved these little 418s. And then when German soldiers were down, or German officers, they would buy these. It's Beretta quality. It was very well known. But while it's not a really incredible self-defense firearm in your pocket, it is something to have. And 25 ACP, while it's fairly anemic, it is capable of self-defense. And honestly, it's pretty much like a 22. But a few years later, Beretta introduced their model 950. This is the BS model. It's in 25 ACP. The magazine release is here on the side of the grip. It also holds 8 rounds, but it has the tip-up barrel, which has become very popular with a lot of people. I'm a big fan of this particular model. It's called the Jetfire, and in 22 short, it's called the Minx. And what is surprising is in 22 short, it's very reliable, and it's just one of those fun guns to have. But this is one of my very favorite handguns. I've had this for years and years, over 30 years, and I just love this little gun. In fact, I think Nothing Fancy also said that this was one of his favorite little pistols. There's just something about it. The quality of these little Beretta pistols is just at top notch. And of course, we have the Model 21. This is also in 25 ACP. It's the 21A. It's double single action. Of course, same thing, magazine here. It holds 8 rounds in 25. If you go to the 22 long rifle, it holds 7. And then you got the tip-up barrel so you can load this in. And again, all these were extremely popular for a number of years. I have one with the wood grips. It's in 22. But it is a double action. So when I pull the trigger, it actuates the hammer. In the standard 950, it's just single action. The hammer has to be pulled back before it's fired. But both of these have hammers, which the original Model 418 does not. And then we have the Beretta Model 21A, and this is their current production. They're still making these. They even make a threaded barrel version for suppressors. And this is the Enox version with stainless steel, but this is what Beretta is currently making, but only in 22 long rifle. And many of you guys know I'm a big mouse gun collector. I love it. It's just totally different than a lot of the Striker Fire polymer pistols, and there's just something about them that I love. And so this being in 25, being a mouse gun, and yet being carried by James Bond, this was a no-brainer, and I don't know why I haven't had one earlier, except that they are, again, fairly expensive. Now, when I first got this pistol in particular, the striker spring was extremely weak, the recoil spring was weak, and so I got a kit replacement from Wolf Springs, and they have a lot of different vintage firearm spring sets there which I think are pretty cool. I've done that over the years. So just to let you know, if you get one and it seems like the striker is really weak, you can get that spring replaced. I mean, there's very few parts problems you're going to have with this handgun. But even so, we did have some malfunction issues, and it's part of the design, maybe part of the ammunition, and two, I could probably do a really deep clean and fix that. But overall, I shot quite a few rounds through it. On the whole, it actually functioned very well. In one scene from Russia with Love, James Bond was asked to turn in his Model 418, and that was to be replaced with the Walther PPK, again in 32 ACP. When he did turn it in, and he was given the Walther, he wasn't very happy about it. When Q took the firearm and put it on the desk, when James was leaving, he slipped it back under a book, and actually Q called him and made him turn it back in. So the original James Bond was really fond of the Model 418, which was modified from this version. It was called skeletonized, which means the grips were taken off. I've seen some that had tape wrapped around it. And then also it had a threaded barrel with a suppressor. And one of the reasons why James was asked to turn it in was because when he was drawing out the Model 418 with the suppressor, it got caught on his pants and he was almost killed. And so they really upped it to the 32 ACP, which is really better than 25, and yet then later on went up to the 380. And there were a number of 9mm pistols, including the Walther P99 that James Bond carried in later movies, but then came back to the Walther PPK. This is one of the last versions of a number of handguns that were designed around this same style. Started in the 1919 all the way up, and this production was up until 1958 or late 1950s. One of the big things is that it has the alloy frame, which became really the 418. The slide is all steel, of course metal parts all throughout. Very short barrel. In fact, it's 2.58 inches. One thing about the alloy aluminum frame is this patina that comes through. And I noticed that even on some newer models or models that were in better condition. This is not wear. It has this kind of a gold kind of frame to it. And then a blue slide. Now this is not the best condition. In fact, I found this at a gun show and I got a really good price on it. I had just lost the bid on one on Gunbroker, and it went for $900. It was pristine, it was beautiful, but they are not cheap. A lot of people are collecting these. I got this for less than half that price because the guy just didn't know what he had. Now right here, 1949 is marked, and he had model 1949 on the table, so I was really happy to get this. As far as the trigger pull, a little bit of take up, not much. And a nice little break, really simple. It's not that heavy. And we'll check the trigger pull weight with our Lyman trigger gauge from Brownells. Got to depress that grip safety. 5 pounds, 9.2 ounces. I really don't like dry firing it too much. We're going to leave it at that. That firing pin, to replace that, it might be a nightmare. It's 4.5 inches in total length. It's 3.25 inches in height, and it's 0.75 inches even at the grip, which is the thickest part. So a very tiny gun. As far as weight, 11.23 ounces. No wonder James Bond liked carrying this. We really appreciate Fiocchi for sponsoring the ammunition. Used to, I would buy just some of the unusual calibers from Fiocchi. And then I found out that their main line is just excellent. Been shooting this stuff for years. Beretta's been in business for over 500 years, and they've come out with a lot of designs. This is definitely old school. It's a mouse gun, it's tiny, and 25 ACP is anemic. But there's something about these little guns that I just love. And really the tip-up barrel series is some of my favorite pistols out there. This is just the predecessor. This is what led to it. But really relied upon by a lot of people for self-defense back in the day. And of course we have much better ballistics now, but just a great little gun to take to the range. Had a little malfunction, which happens with these little guys, and especially the older ones. Really the Jetfires are pretty reliable if you use good quality ammunition. But of course, when these were first made, they probably were more reliable. The springs wear out, things happen, and but really just a classic from, you know, the 50s, and still a little fun gun to take to the range. But the biggest thing is that this was in the James Bond series. The reason I bought it, and I love it. I mean, it's just a great addition to my mouse gun collection with some history. Now, while overall we had a great time at the range, there was a number of malfunctions. Most of them, the brass wouldn't eject, just little things. Just wanted to show you some of the malfunctions in case you ever buy one and you see what it's doing. But, you know, again, if I did a deep clean, I could probably get more reliability out of it. So we'll see, because I just enjoy shooting it, and it's a lot of fun. Of course, 25 ACP is right now kind of difficult to find, but, you know, overall it'll come back. All right, let's disassemble the firearm. Go ahead and drop your magazine, check the chamber, the gun's empty. Bring back your slide and lock it into place just like that. Now, something that's very unusual, I've never seen this before, is you take your barrel, push it back. Next, we're going to lift it up, pull it out. Just locks right into some rails inside the frame. Next, then we're going to take and just disable our slide stop, bring it down, and then let the slide go forward. You'll notice that the recoil spring is here. It fits into a small hole right here in the frame. We're going to pull it out as well. And this is one part that I had to replace, the recoil spring, and then also the striker spring. They were just really weak. Now this is your striker assembly, and all you need to do is push it back to relieve the tension and twist it. And what happens is you come off the sear with that little notch, and then you just pull it right out. Then we can pull off our spring, our striker spring, and we pull out the back piece, which is a small guide or a small tube. And that's where your striker goes through. And this is your striker. It's very simple. A little notch is what keeps it in the back position. And so guys, that's it. I mean, that's all you need to do really to field strip the firearm. One thing you can do is to take your safety and you can just wiggle it a little bit and it will come out as well. So that just gives you more open area to be able to clean. And that's as far as you really want to go to field strip it. You can take the grips off and pop this pin out, and you can get down in here if you need to, but we're not going that far. So very simple and yet different. Now for reassembly, we're going to go ahead and put in our safety again. And this is very important, obviously, for safety, but also it holds in your recoil spring. Next, we're going to take our striker assembly. I've seen some people put it into the slide, but I like to do it this way. And we're going to put on our little tube or our guide. Again, we're going to set it inside this little area that holds in your striker, and we're going to go where it's kind of like vertical or horizontal, and then turn it once you get past right here. And again, that's what holds that into place. Next, we're going to take our recoil spring and guide rod. You want this larger end to go into the frame. So making sure the safety's back, put it down in that hole, and make sure it goes all the way in. And so it rests on this little safety area right here. Next, we're going to take our slide, and you want to go ahead and go over your slide rails first, and then guide in your recoil spring, making sure that it goes into this area right under your slide. And then bring it all the way back and lock it into slide lock, just like that. Now take your barrel, drop it in the top, and then you want to just get it to where it seats, just like this. Grab hold of the end and just pull it until it stops. And then we're going to release our slide, just like that. Make sure you bring your safety into the down position, and then test for function. And we're back in business. Fairly easy to do. The barrel's a little different to know to push that back, but it pops back fairly easily. It's a classic. It is very collectible, and obviously a lot of that has to do with its pedigree being one of James Bond's first handguns. 25 ACP blowback, very simple, yet has a grip safety and a frame safety. Simple to disassemble, just a few tricks. I love the bezel around the grip, and it's just old school. And I'm a big fan of the mouse guns. And when you think about it like this is the current Beretta mouse gun. This is from 1920 all the way up until the late 50s. And honestly, the Model 21 has been around for a long time. But when it comes to James Bond, I think this was a major upgrade, even at 32 ACP, but definitely up to 380. A lot more capability, but this, a lot of fun, super easy to carry, super light recoil. I mean, it's just one of those classics that's just great to collect. Wouldn't carry this for self-defense, but it's better than a sharp stick. So guys, the PPK, I mean, it's known to be James Bond's handgun. I mean, carried in most of the movies, and really a great little classic, beautiful firearm. But if you want James Bond's original, the Beretta Model 418, while it is a fairly anemic little pistol, it's Beretta quality, it's a classic in itself, and it goes really well in my mouse gun collection. Bond, James Bond. Just doesn't quite have the feel with this little 25. Be strong, be of good courage. God bless America, long live the Republic, and God save the Queen. But Ian Fleming's first, so this was a perfect for my collection. This was a perfect for my collection. That just don't sound right. Those who love James Bond, and this wind, come on wind. This was relied upon. Take right here at your barrel and just push it forward. Well, it's not really forward, is it? This is James Bond's little buddy.